What is the role of a business analyst in an organization?
It is the most fundamental question you can expect during your interview. You can answer this question by explaining that a business analyst is a liaison or a link between different stakeholders belonging to different domains in an organization. A business analyst should have the capabilities to fulfill the business objectives and balance the needs of various stakeholders.
How do you see yourself fit for the role of business analyst in our company?
With this type of business analyst interview questions, the interviewer wants to assess your understanding regarding the job role and whether you match the company's expectation of the desired candidate. You can answer this question in two parts. Firstly, focus on your education by stating relevant coursework related to the job. Secondly, illustrate your experience, attitude, and skills that make you a good fit for the company. You can give examples of the previous works that show the interviewer what benefits you will bring to the company. Make sure your answer has a problem and a solution you implemented. Make sure you also focus on the skills outlined in the job advertisement when you are highlighting and explaining your experience and competencies.
What, according to you, are the core competencies of a business analyst?
It is one of the most common business analyst interview questions. Although every company is different, the core requirements of a business analyst profile are quite similar. Make sure to go over an organization's job description in detail to understand the required core competencies and include them in your answer. You can answer this by stating that a business analyst must have exceptional communication and negotiation skills, analytical thinking, problem solving, and decision-making are also vital attributes. A business analyst should have industry knowledge, business process management skills along with technical proficiency. Make sure to highlight the attributes that you possess and can bring to the job.
List some of the skills and tools used by business analysts.
Answer this question by combining both the technical and non-technical tools/skills used by business analysts. Technical skills/tool, MS Office Suite, Google Docs, database knowledge, ERP systems, SQL, and more. Non-technical/business analysis skills, documentation, requirement elicitation, business process management, and more. You can tailor your answer to highlight your unique skills and experience. Business and leadership courses, PGP Business Analysis, CCBA, Business Analyst, Master of Business Administration, BAP, Design Thinking, PGP Digital Transformation, Postgraduate Diploma in Management, Digital Transformation.
Do you have any technical skills? Can you list your database skills or business intelligence skills?
Your technical skills are directly proportional to your value in the organization. It is not compulsory to have advanced technical skills like relational databases and SQL. But the more technically proficient you are as a business analyst, the better. These skills are most desirable and widely used. So if you have some experience in using these technologies, make sure you explain them to your interviewer. You can describe the specific business intelligence tools you have used if you have experience in handling the system the organization uses. Highlight that to your interviewer.
What is INVEST?
INVEST is an abbreviation of independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, sized appropriately, and testable. This term is used by business analysts and project managers to deliver quality services and products.
Are you aware of the different techniques like Moscow and SWOT?
A business analyst should be aware of the processes used to create and implement strategies for identifying an organization's needs and delivering the best results. With this question, the recruiter wants to know whether you understand these terms and can incorporate them into your working policies. Moscow stands for must or should, could or would. A business analyst should implement this process by comparing every demand with other needs to prioritize the framework requirements. For example, is this requirement a must-have or should-have? SWOT or strengths? Weaknesses? Opportunities? And threats analysis is the most widely used technique in organizations for proper resource allocation. A business analyst should be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of any corporate framework and translate them into opportunities and threats. There are many other business techniques like MOST and PESTLE, and you can learn more about them to prepare for your business analyst interview. Read more. What does a business analyst do?
What do you mean by project deliverables?
These are the set of measurable services and products delivered to the end customer after project completion. It is the outcome of the project.
How do you keep yourself updated about the latest business trends and knowledge?
With this business analyst interview question, the recruiter wants to evaluate if you are motivated enough to keep pace with emerging latest business developments and trends. The interviewer wants to know what actions you take to keep your knowledge and skills updated. You can answer this question by including references to news and industry publications. You can also list the events and conferences you attend to connect with the business community.
What are the various stages of a business project?
The main stages of any business or IT project are initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure.
Explain UML and its uses.
UML or Unified Modeling Language is a general-purpose developmental modeling language that provides a standard way to envision the system. It is used to rationalize the system behavior for the detection and elimination of errors/bottlenecks.
Can you explain SRS and its key elements?
SRS stands for System or Software Requirements Specification. It is a set of documents describing the features of a software application or system. It includes various elements required by the stakeholders and customers to convince the end users. The critical aspects of an SRS are scope of work, non-functional and functional requirements, data model, dependencies, assumptions and constraints, acceptance criteria.
What is BRD? How is it different from SRS?
BRD is an abbreviation for Business Requirement Document. It is a formal contract between the organization and the client for the development of the specific product. BRD is a functional specification of the software, whereas SRS is both BA creates it after their direct interaction with the clients. BRD is created by a business analyst after their direct interaction with the clients, whereas SRS is designed based on technical expertise and needs. SRS is derived from BRD.
What do you understand by requirement? Can you differentiate between requirements and needs?
A requirement is a targeted solution and representation to achieve specific business objectives. Stakeholders evaluate the project based on set conditions/requirements before its implementation. All the elements are correctly documented for reference purposes. Needs are the high-level representation of the result. For example, you need to get a business analyst job, and the requirements to apply for this job are resume, educational background, and interview practice.
How can you say that a requirement is good or perfect?
A requirement is said to be perfect if it is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, or in short, smart. The description of a condition should be specific, and all the parameters required for success should be measurable. All the needed resources should be attainable and relevant to the project. All the conditions/elements should be revealed timely.
What is the purpose of the requirement traceability matrix?
It records all the requirements given by a client and ensures that all the necessities are met.
What is business modeling?
Business modeling is a step-by-step approach for identifying the value proposition for operating the business. The key attributes of business modeling to develop a strategic plan for an organization are vision, mission, objectives, strategies, action plan.
What is the project lifecycle? Which models will you employ, and why?
A project lifecycle is a framework implemented by a business analyst to split a project into manageable phases and signify the decision points throughout the project lifespan. The different models are the waterfall model, spiral model, iterative model, agile model, and V-shaped model. You can answer by stating that selecting a lifecycle model is exclusively based on the type, scope, and limitations of the project. You can give an example of any model which you used in a project.
What do you understand by gap analysis, and what are the types of gaps that can occur during an analysis?
Gap analysis means the analysis of the differences between the functionalities of an existing and the targeted system. The gap means changes that are required to accomplish the proposed result. Profit gap is the change between the actual and estimated profit of a company. Manpower gap is the change between the actual and required workforce strength in a company. Performance gap is the difference between the expected and actual performances. Market gap is the variation between estimated actual sales.
What strategies will you follow to design a use case?
A use case should be concise, well-defined, and correctly documented. The strategies or approaches in designing use cases are: the first phase is the user's identification to create a role profile for every user category and recognition of goals associated with every role. The second phase deals with the structure and creation of use cases by capturing both functional and non-functional requirements, include use case diagrams and user interface details. The final phase is reviewing and validating the use cases.
Explain your typical work tactic for a project.
It is one of the most crucial business analyst interview questions asked by a recruiting manager to assess your work strategy, teamwork, and project management skills. To answer this question, you can explain the general steps you follow with standard deliverables. For example, if you have managed the planning phase of a project, you could mention deliverables like a requirements management plan, work breakdown structure, or a communication plan. Each business faces different situations and has distinct needs. But these fundamental steps are essential to achieve a task successfully. Firstly, you must clarify your role and determine the stakeholders' perspective in the project. You should define primary objectives along with reconciling the expectations conflict among stakeholders. Create a work plan listing steps, timelines, and deliverables. Define actionable and concise requirements. Ensure technical implementation, as many solutions require the support of IT teams. Create documentation and train end users to implement the solution. Finally, assess the value of the project. Did it work? Or any follow-ups are needed? You should focus on your experience to describe your skills and explain the customized tactics you use.
What documents are needed by a business analyst? Which documents have you prepared in your previous works?
A project lifecycle uses many documents, and it depends on the utilization process of a business analyst. Initiation document, system requirement specifications document, business requirement document, functional requirement document, requirements traceability matrix, use case specifications document, change request document, gap analysis document. With this question, the hiring manager wants to understand if you have used several types of documents and assess your capability of delivering both business and technical specifications. Make sure to use only those documents you are familiar with and explain in detail.
What is the requirement elicitation? Have you ever participated in these elicitation meetings?
It is a technique to gather information from stakeholders and users. It involves approaches or strategies to collaborate with clients or users directly. Some requirement elicitation techniques are document analysis, interviews, prototyping, brainstorming, workshops and observations, surveys/questionnaire. You can answer the second part of the question by explaining how you have used these techniques and how they impacted your project.
What are the various kinds of diagrams you use as a business analyst? How do they impact the work?
Your hiring manager may ask this role-specific question to ensure that you understand standard business analysis documents and how to apply them to a client's case. You must list your past experiences and examples to validate your credibility and value. The most used diagram models by business analysts are flowcharts. These are the diagrammatic depiction of the complete flow of the system. They make it easy for all the stakeholders, whether technical, to understand the operation. Activity diagram. These diagrams illustrate the diverse activities and their flow across various departments. Use case diagrams. These diagrams model the functionality of a system using a set of actions, functions, and services that the system/project needs to perform. These diagrams are beneficial in visualizing the functional requirements of a system and finalizing development priorities. They also identify any external/internal factors that should be considered as they can influence the project. Sequence diagrams. These diagrams illustrate the interaction between different objects and the time sequence of the message flow between them. Collaboration diagrams. These are also called interaction or communication diagrams. They are the illustration of the relationships and interactions among software objects in the unified modeling language. Many diagrams can be used in business analysis. And you can say that you follow a more coherent approach of merging different models to produce results.
What is the exception and alternate flow in a use case diagram? How are they different from basic flow?
The basic flow is the representation of the operation of activities as required by the company. Alternate flow is the representation of actions or activities other than basic flow. It leads to achieving the goals of use cases using different steps. Exception flow represents the actions executed in case of errors. It leads to not achieving the goal of a use case.
What are personas, and how they are useful in user-centered design methodology?
Personas are created in place of real users to understand their behavioral patterns in different scenarios. In user-centered design methodology, a system is developed, keeping the viewpoint of end users in mind. Personas help create such systems.
Define analytical reporting.
A business analyst needs to comprehend the significance and drawbacks of analytical reporting. And you must be ready with an answer during your business analyst interview. You can start your answer by a brief definition of analytical reporting. It is a type of business reporting that offers data analysis, information, and recommendations. The recommendations are the critical attributes that make it different from informational reporting. After that, you can describe the impact your analytical reporting made in previous roles. Focus on showing how you can create recommendations from data sources and demonstrate your analytical skills.
If there are multiple stakeholders in a project, how do you influence them? Also, explain how you would work with a difficult stakeholder.
With this type of business analyst interview questions, the recruiter is trying to understand how you implement your various competencies, especially communication, negotiation, problem solving, decision making, influencing, and collaboration skills. As a business analyst, you will deal with various people at different positions with distinct personalities. This question is crucial as it conveys whether you can successfully navigate interactions with different stakeholders or not. Dealing with difficult stakeholders is a significant responsibility for any business analyst. Use the STAR method to explain the situation you were dealing with. What your task or role was in the case. Outline the action you took to resolve the problem. Finally, describe the result and learnings of your actions.
How can you manage the post-implementation and pre-implementation problems of a project?
You can answer this by briefly explaining both the problems. The problems that declare their presence before the project implementation are called pre-implementation problems. The difficulties arising after the project implementation are called post-implementation problems. And most of the concerns fall in this category. After that, you can explain that a business analyst cannot overcome all these problems, but can limit them up to the maximum extent within a minimum time frame.
During the development of a system, how do you manage frequently changing customers' requirements?
It is one of the most frequently asked business analytic interview questions. The first task of a business analyst is to draft a document stating the number of changes that are allowed. And after a certain point, no amendments will be accepted. It is vital to get this document signed by the user. In case the change required is accepted, make sure to note down all the changes and find out their overall impact on the project. Calculate the timeline, cost, and resources needed for this change.
What is scope creep and how can you avoid scope creep?
Scope creep is a problem that can occur during the development of a project. When the scope of the project gradually expands beyond its original parameters. This can happen for a variety of reasons, such as changes in the requirements or objectives of the project, or simply due to poor planning. Avoiding scope creep can be difficult, but it is essential in order to keep a project on track. One way to do this is to have a clear and concise definition of the project scope from the outset and to make sure that all stakeholders agree on this definition. It is also important to have a well-defined change management process in place, so that any changes to the scope are carefully considered and approved by all relevant parties. Finally, regular communication with all stakeholders can help to ensure that everyone is aware of the project's current parameters and objectives. If you are experiencing scope creep in your own project, it is important to take action to address the problem as soon as possible. Allowing the scope to continue to expand unchecked can lead to significant delays and cost overruns, and can ultimately jeopardize the success of the project.
What is requirement prioritization? What are the different techniques used for it?
Prioritizing requirements is a critical part of the requirements gathering process. It helps ensure that the most important requirements are addressed first, and that resources are used efficiently. There are a variety of techniques that can be used to prioritize requirements, including cost-benefit analysis, value-based prioritization, and stakeholder analysis. Cost-benefit analysis is a technique that assesses the costs and benefits of each requirement. This can be used to identify which requirements are most important in terms of cost-effectiveness. Value-based prioritization is a technique that assesses the value of each requirement, based on factors such as how important the requirement is to the user, how likely it is to be used, and how complex it is to implement.
What is the fundamental difference between a requirement and need in a business analysis perspective?
There is a fundamental difference between requirements and needs in a business analysis perspective. Requirements are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound statements that describe what the business wants to achieve. On the other hand, needs are broader statements that describe the general problem or opportunity that the business is trying to address. In order to create effective requirements, the business analyst must understand the needs of the business and then translate them into specific measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound requirements.
What are non-functional requirements and how do you capture them?
Non-functional requirements are those that specify conditions that a system must meet in order to be successful. They are often contrasted with functional requirements, which detail the specific behaviors that a system must exhibit. There are many different types of non-functional requirements, but some common ones include performance, security, scalability, and usability. Capturing these requirements can be challenging as they are often less well-defined than functional requirements. One way to approach this is to think about the different types of users that will be using the system and what their specific needs are. For example, if you are building a website, you will need to consider the needs of users with different levels of internet access speed, as well as those with different levels of computer literacy. Another way to capture non-functional requirements is to use scenarios. Scenarios are stories that describe how a system will be used in a real-world setting. They can be useful for uncovering unanticipated requirements, as well as for helping to define the acceptable limits of system performance. Overall, non-functional requirements are an important part of any system development project by taking the time to think about the different types of users that will be using the system, and by using scenarios to capture real-world usage. You can ensure that your system meets the needs of all its users.
Which documents are used to capture non-functional requirements?
There are a few different types of documents that can be used to capture non-functional requirements. One type of document is called a use case. Use cases can be used to capture information about how a system should work and what its capabilities should be. Another type of document that can be used to capture non-functional requirements is called a business requirements document. This type of document can be used to capture information about the business goals of a system and what functions it should perform in addition. Technical specifications can also be used to capture non-functional requirements. These types of documents can be used to capture information about the technical details of a system and how it should be implemented.
What is an activity diagram and what are the important elements of it?
An activity diagram is a graphical representation of the sequence of activities that take place in a system. The main purpose of an activity diagram is to model the flow of control within a system. There are 4 important elements that should be included in an activity diagram. Activities. These are the actions that take place within the system. States. These represent the different states that an activity can be in. Transitions. These indicate the order in which the activities take place. Objects. These are the objects that are affected by the activities.
What is the difference between exception flow and alternate flow?
The main difference between exception flow and alternate flow is that exception flow deals with unexpected events that occurred during the execution of a program, while alternate flow deals with expected events. Exception flow is used to handle errors or unexpected conditions that may occur during the execution of a program. Alternate flow is used to specify the order in which different parts of a program are executed. Exception flow is typically used to deal with errors such as unexpected input from a user or an unexpected condition that occurs during the execution of a program. Alternate flow is typically used to specify the order in which different parts of a program are executed. For example, alternate flow can be used to specify that one part of a program is executed if a condition is true, and another part of the program is executed if a condition is false. Exception flow and alternate flow are both important concepts in programming. Exception flow is used to deal with unexpected events that may occur during the execution of a program, while alternate flow is used to specify the order in which different parts of a program are executed.
Do you think a business analyst should be involved in testing?
There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as the level of involvement of business analysts in testing will vary depending on the specific project and organization. However, in general, it is beneficial for business analysts to be involved in testing, as they can provide valuable insights into the requirements and help ensure that the final product meets the needs of the business.
What does INVEST stand for?
Invest stands for independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, sized appropriately, testable, independent. A user story should be self-contained and not depend on other user stories. Otherwise, it risks becoming a blocker for other features. User stories should also be independent from one another so that they can be prioritized and worked on independently. Negotiable. User stories should be written in a way that leaves room for negotiation. They should not be too specific or too detailed. This allows for flexibility and allows the team to add their own insights during implementation. Valuable. A user story should always represent value for the user. It should be something that the user wants or needs. Estimable. User stories should be small enough that they can be estimated if a user story is too big. It should be broken down into smaller user stories. Sized appropriately. User stories should be the right size. They should not be too big or too small. The team should have a good understanding of what the user story is and what it entails before starting work on it. Testable. User stories should be testable. This means that they should have acceptance criteria that can be used to verify that the user story has been implemented correctly.
What is Pareto analysis?
Pareto analysis is a technique used to identify the most important factors that contribute to a particular problem or goal. It is named after Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, who developed the concept in the early 20th century. Pareto analysis can be used in any situation where there are multiple contributing factors to a problem or goal. It is especially useful in business and quality management contexts, where it can help identify the most important areas to focus on in order to achieve the greatest improvement. To carry out a Pareto analysis, all of the contributing factors must first be identified and then ranked in order of importance. The most important factor is then addressed first, followed by the second most important, and so on. Pareto analysis is a simple but powerful tool that can help to prioritize efforts and resources for maximum impact. It is also known as the 80-20 rule, due to the common finding that 80% of problems are usually caused by 20% of the factors. This rule is not always accurate, but it is a good general guideline to keep in mind. If you are facing a problem with multiple contributing factors, Pareto analysis can help you to identify the most important ones to focus on. It is a simple but powerful tool that can make a big difference in the effectiveness of your efforts.
What is BPMN and what are its basic elements?
BPMN, short for Business Process Model and Notation, is a standard graphical notation used to model business processes. BPMN was created to provide a common language that both business users and technical developers could use to document and communicate business processes. The basic elements of BPMN are: event, an occurrence that triggers a process; gateway, a decision point in a process; activity, a task that needs to be performed; data object, information that is required or produced by an activity. These elements can be combined to create a visual representation of a business process. BPMN diagrams are typically used to model processes that are repetitive and have well-defined start and end points. However, they can also be used to model more complex processes that are less structured. BPMN diagrams can be created using a variety of software tools. Some of these tools are designed specifically for creating BPMN diagrams, while others are general-purpose diagramming tools that support BPMN. BPMN is a powerful tool for modeling business processes. It can be used to document and communicate processes, and to identify potential improvements when used correctly. BPMN can help organizations to improve their efficiency and effectiveness.
What is Kano analysis?
Kano analysis is a quality management tool that helps businesses identify customer needs and preferences. It can be used to improve product development, customer satisfaction, and marketing strategies. The Kano model was developed in the 1980s by Japanese quality management expert Dr. Noriaki Kano. It consists of 5 levels of customer needs. Basic needs. These are the essential features that customers expect from a product or service. They are also known as must-have or threshold requirements. Performance needs. These are the features that improve the product's or service's performance. They are also known as satisfiers. Excitement needs. These are the features that make the product or service more exciting or appealing to customers. They are also known as delighters. Reverse needs. These are features that customers do not want and can even be considered negative. They are also known as dissatisfiers. Unknown needs. These are features that customers may not even know they want or need until they see them. They are also known as latent or unstated needs. The Kano model can be used to assess customer needs at each stage of the product development process from initial planning to final delivery. It can also be used to evaluate customer satisfaction with existing products and services. Kano analysis is a powerful tool for businesses of all sizes. It can help them identify customer needs and preferences, improve product development, and create more satisfied customers.
What is benchmarking?
Benchmarking is the process of comparing the performance of a company or individual against others in the same industry. This can be done in terms of specific metrics such as profitability, productivity, or customer satisfaction. Benchmarking can also be used more broadly to compare any aspect of a business's operations. The main purpose of benchmarking is to identify areas where a company can improve its performance. By understanding how others in the industry are operating a business can develop strategies to better compete. Benchmarking can also help companies keep track of their own performance over time and ensure that they are making progress towards their goals.
How do you decide that as a business analyst you have gathered all the requirements?
There is no definitive answer to this question, as it will vary depending on the specific project and requirements. However, there are some general guidelines that you can follow in order to ensure that you have gathered all the necessary requirements. To start with, you should always consult with the project stakeholders to get their input on what they feel are the most important requirements for the project. Once you have a good understanding of the stakeholders' needs, you can then begin to compile a list of all the functional and non-functional requirements for the project. It is also important to keep in mind that requirements can change over time. So you will need to periodically review and update your list of requirements as needed. Finally, when you are confident that you have gathered all the requirements, you can then begin to work on creating a project plan and budget.
How do you perform requirement gathering?
There are many ways to perform requirement gathering, but some common methods include interviews, focus groups, surveys, and document analysis. When choosing a method, it is important to consider the type of information you need as well as the resources available to you. Interviews are often used to gather requirements because they provide an opportunity for in-depth, open-ended conversation. They can be conducted in person or over the phone, and they work well when you need to gather detailed information about someone's thoughts or experiences. However, interviews can be time-consuming and expensive if you need to speak with a large number of people. Focus groups are similar to interviews in that they provide an opportunity for open-ended discussion. However, they involve a small group of people who are asked to discuss a topic together. This can be a useful method for exploring different perspectives on an issue and for generating new ideas. Surveys can be used to gather quantitative data about people's opinions, experiences, or knowledge. They can be administered in person, by mail, or online. And they are often used when researchers need to collect data from a large number of people. Document analysis is a method of gathering information by analyzing existing documents. This can be useful for understanding historical trends or for collecting data that is not easily measured through other methods. When using this method, it is important to consider the bias that may be present in the documents you are analyzing.
Why is it necessary for a business analyst to get involved during the implementation of requirements?
There are many benefits to having a business analyst involved during the implementation of requirements. First, the business analyst can ensure that the requirements are clear and unambiguous, which can help avoid misunderstandings and errors during implementation. Second, the business analyst can work with the development team to ensure that the requirements are properly implemented and meet the needs of the business. Third, the business analyst can provide valuable feedback to the development team during testing and validation, which can help improve the quality of the final product. Finally, the business analyst can help document the requirements and the implementation process, which can be useful for future reference.
What is the difference between business analysis and business analytics?
There are a few key differences between business analysis and business analytics. Business analysts tend to focus on identifying opportunities and improving processes, while business analytics professionals focus on analyzing data to support decision-making. Additionally, business analysts typically have more of a business-focused background, while business analytics professionals often have stronger technical skills. Finally, business analysts may work more closely with business stakeholders to understand their needs, while business analytics professionals may spend more time working with data. Despite these differences, the two disciplines are often complementary, and many organizations find that they need both business analysts and business analytics professionals to function effectively. By combining the skills of these two groups, organizations can gain a better understanding of their data and use it to improve their business operations.
What is process design?
Process design is the creation of a process to achieve specific objectives. It involves the specifying of operating conditions, raw materials, equipment, and other aspects of the process. Process design also includes the determination of desired output levels, process flow diagrams, and other process characteristics.
What is the Agile Manifesto?
The Agile Manifesto is a set of principles for software development that emphasizes individuals and interactions over processes and tools, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan.
What are the essential qualities of an Agile BA?
An Agile business analyst is someone who understands the Agile methodology and is able to help a team work within that framework. They need to be able to communicate effectively, be organized, and have a strong attention to detail. They should also be able to work well under pressure and be able to adapt to changes quickly.
When should you use the waterfall model instead of Scrum?
There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as the decision of which software development methodology to use depends on several factors specific to each project. However, in general, the waterfall model may be more appropriate for projects with well-defined requirements and deliverables, while Scrum may be more suitable for projects that are more flexible and evolving. Ultimately, the decision of which methodology to use should be based on a careful evaluation of the specific needs of each project.
What are the 4 key phases of business development?
The first phase of business development is known as the ideation stage. This is when an entrepreneur has an idea for a new business venture. They will need to research the feasibility of their idea and develop a plan to bring it to market. The second phase of business development is the implementation stage. This is when the entrepreneur begins to execute their business plan. They will need to secure funding, build a team, and develop their product or service. The third phase of business development is the growth stage. This is when the business starts to gain traction and grow. The entrepreneur will need to focus on scaling their operations and expanding their customer base. The fourth and final phase of business development is the exit stage. This is when the entrepreneur decides to sell their business or take it public. They will need to plan for this eventuality and ensure that their business is in a position to be successful.
What do you know about Kanban?
Kanban is a popular system for managing workflows and has been used in a variety of businesses and industries. It is based on the Japanese word for sign or card, and was originally developed as a way to manage assembly line production in manufacturing. Kanban has since been adapted for use in other industries and has been found to be helpful in managing workflows in a variety of businesses. In recent years, it has become popular in the software development industry as a way to manage agile software development.
Mention some of the most important agile metrics.
There are a number of metrics that can be used to measure the success of an agile software development project. These include velocity. This measures the amount of work that is completed in a given time period. It is a good indicator of productivity and can be used to predict how much work can be completed in future sprints. Lead time. This measures the time from when a user story is created to when it is delivered. It can be used to identify bottlenecks in the development process and to improve the flow of work. Cycle time. This measures the time from when work on a user story starts to when it is completed. It can be used to identify areas where the development process is taking too long and needs to be streamlined. Defect density. This measures the number of defects per unit of code. It is a good indicator of the quality of the code and can be used to identify areas where the quality needs to be improved. Test coverage. This measures the percentage of code that is covered by tests. It is a good indicator of the quality of the tests and can be used to identify areas where the test coverage needs to be improved. These are just some of the most important agile metrics. There are many other metrics that can be used to measure the success of an agile project. The important thing is to choose the right metrics for your project and to use them to drive improvements.
Explain the term increment.
The term increment is used to describe the process of adding a value to a variable. For example, if we have a variable called counter, and we want to add 1 to it, we would say that we are incrementing the counter by 1. Similarly, if we have a variable called total, and we want to add 10 to it, we would say that we are incrementing the total by 10.
What are the different types of agile methodologies?
There are several types of agile methodologies, each with its own unique approach to software development. The most popular agile frameworks include Scrum, Kanban, and Extreme Programming, XP.
Is there any difference between incremental and iterative development?
Both incremental and iterative development are software development processes that focus on delivering small, frequent updates rather than large, infrequent ones. The main difference between the two approaches is that incremental development delivers functionality in small, discrete chunks, while iterative development focuses on delivering larger pieces of functionality incrementally.
Difference between extreme programming and Scrum?
There are a few key differences between Extreme Programming, XP, and Scrum. The most notable difference is that XP focuses on code quality and customer satisfaction, while Scrum emphasizes delivering working software quickly. Additionally, XP requires developers to work in close collaboration with customers, while Scrum relies on input from a product owner. Finally, XP uses a test-first approach to development, while Scrum employs an iterative and incremental approach. Despite these differences, both XP and Scrum are agile software development frameworks that emphasize collaboration, customer involvement, and iterative development.